Hey, I'm Jamie Easton. Today's episode of the Smart 7 is brought to you by Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's. Imagine a world where your favourite things cost less. It's pretty amazing, right? It's like the universe is aligned just for you. Well, that's the magic of Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's, and it's pretty simple. You can unlock up to 10 personalised discounts every Friday on things you love in the Nectar app. And the best part is that while Nectar Prices are for everyone, Your Nectar Prices are just for you. It couldn't be simpler. Each week you'll get up to 10 personalised offers. They're your Nectar Prices. So every Friday, just check your Nectar app and unlock Your Nectar Prices to save more now. Enjoy your own personalised discounts on things you love with Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, Nectar app required. Unlock up to 10 Your Nectar Prices weekly, available in supermarkets, online and in locals with Smart Shop. T&Cs apply.
It's Saturday the 9th of August. I'm Ciara Evans, and this was a week that saw the government focus on immigration, Israel moved to fully occupy Gaza, Donald Trump make progress on Ukraine, and tributes to the UK's favourite shock jock.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
But not the news.
There was a flurry of new activity this week from the government as they struggled to make headway on the topic of immigration. Statistics show that more than 25,000 people have arrived in the UK via small boats, a record for the first 7 months of the year. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has promised to smash the smuggling gangs and has been busy signing agreements with European partners, including France, to cut down on numbers crossing the Channel. Now the government is proposing to create a new offence as part of the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill, which is currently progressing through Parliament. It will make advertising illegal channel crossing an offence which could have a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. Dame Diana Johnson is Home Office Minister.
Clearly at the moment those social media providers have to look at what's on there, but we want to go after the individuals who are promoting this and stop them and hold them account for this criminal behaviour.
The Conservatives have already called the jump in numbers crossing the Channel a national emergency, and Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phillips said the plan to target social media adverts is too little, too late. Annette Eidler is the director of the Global Security Programme at Oxford University, and she says it's unlikely to have a significant impact.
They are very small players in this really huge illicit economy. They are the ones that can be very easily replaced. So what we really need to think about is, what can we actually do to change the outcome?
It's a year since the Southport riots led to unrest across the country, and police issued photos on Monday of 40 people they're still seeking in a bid to get the public to assist with identifying the culprits. The government has been struggling to contain anger over immigration, and the latest announcement this week was for another £100 million for 300 extra intelligence officers. And Minister of State for Border Security, Dame Angela Eagle, says it remains a priority.
This is an issue that is very complex, and there's no one silver bullet that's going to fix it. So anyone who thinks that it's going to be fixed immediately doesn't understand how complex and difficult this is.
The Tory Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick has taken a different tack, talking up the dangers of sexual crimes committed by immigrants without clear data to back his claims.
You are seeing daily reports now of numerous sexual crimes from those individuals who are staying in hotels. I think you just have to be honest with the public, and that's what I've always sought to be.
Wednesday saw the beginning of a new deal on immigration with France, the so-called one-in, one-out system, which will see those illegally crossing the Channel return to their point of origin. It's a pilot scheme that is due to run for 11 months, but it's the first step in a formal return system since Brexit came into effect. The system will see those who crossed illegally swapped for migrants who have passed security and eligibility checks. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said it's too soon to put a number on how many people will be involved in the system.
Well, we have not specified the overall numbers because we want to build it and we want to test it. This is groundbreaking. It's not been done before, and that's why we want to be able to build it.
Both the Tories and Reform have been whipping up hysteria online over immigration, with criticism on Tuesday from former Tory Attorney General Dominic Grieve, cautioning that some politicians seem to have thrown the rulebook on the bonfire when it comes to fair trials. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch was also sounding sceptical about the new treaty with France.
I think it's a lot of big talk. Labour said they were going to smash the gangs. They've done absolutely nothing.
Despite a visit from US envoy Steve Witkoff, there was no significant improvement in the aid flow to Gaza this week, with UN agencies continuing to warn that not enough food has been delivered, while more people were killed at a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation site on Sunday. With no significant increase in aid flow, airdrops of aid have continued. But Caroline Williman from Médecins Sans Frontières said there are a dangerous last resort.
There is zero way of organizing or controlling what happens when these packages fall. Of course, people run desperately towards them. This is like the most undignified way of getting food assistance to people.
With no sign of progress on a ceasefire, there's increasing concern with Israel, and former Justice Minister Yossi Beilin says Prime Minister Netanyahu has gone too far.
Like is an extreme government with some extreme lunatics. Netanyahu is dependent on them. And for them, speaking about a two-state solution is unrealistic. But we have next year elections.
World leaders were united on Monday in condemning the latest propaganda from Hamas, which saw videos released of some of the remaining Israeli hostages in Gaza, showing them emaciated and in distress. It appeared to be an attempt to demonstrate the food shortages in the territory, but it's been seized on by Israel as an example of Hamas brutality, and Israeli PM Netanyahu was quick to condemn the footage.
They are starving them the way the Nazis starved the Jews. It doesn't want a deal. It wants to break us through these horrifying videos, but we will not break.
The Israeli PM asked the Red Cross to get involved and provide food and aid for the hostages, but Hamas says it will only respond positively if regular humanitarian aid corridors are opened on a permanent basis and airstrikes are halted. Irish President Michael D. Higgins is calling on the United Nations to take direct action to intervene and provide food for the civilian population.
Whether or not the Security Council agrees, the right exists for the Secretary General to seek to put together an international defence of a corridor. There are 6,000 trucks with enough food for 3 months, and it has been blocked, and it is outrageous.
An Israeli cabinet meeting was postponed on Tuesday, with political observers suggested could indicate a split in the wartime coalition as Prime Minister Netanyahu pushes for what he's calling the full occupation of Gaza. Netanyahu has been angered by Hamas videos of Israeli hostages, despite warning that a new assault would risk their lives and put huge international pressure on Israel. Meanwhile, the shortage of food and aid deliveries into Gaza continued, and Secretary General of the Norwegian Refugee Council, Jan Egeland, said it's getting worse by the day.
What they now have is a system that is utter chaos. These are Hunger Games, really. Run, try to get something, grab it, because there's too little to distribute, and especially to the weakest.
The Israeli military issued new enforced displacement orders on Wednesday, covering areas of Khan Yunis and parts of Gaza City, as Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was poised to order a full occupation of Gaza. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy says the British government is clear that food aid for the civil population needs to be a priority.
We've been very, very clear with the Israeli government that we need to open the gates and flood Gaza with aid. People are starving. They're in need of medical attention. This cannot wait.
Meanwhile, IDF spokesman Nadav Shoshani continued the Israeli government's pushback, claiming that the international community are falling for Hamas propaganda.
IDF is not perfect, but we're doing everything we can to facilitate aid into Gaza. We're doing everything we can to be transparent, to improve the systems, but a lot of it is just plain lies being told by Hamas and then picked up by the world.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed on Thursday that he intends to launch an operation to take full control of Gaza, starting with Gaza City. The announcement came after a lengthy war cabinet meeting, and despite warnings from the IDF's Chief of Staff, Ayal Zamir, that any such operation would put the Israeli hostages held by Hamas in greater danger. He also says Israeli forces are worn out and that the environment in Gaza is extremely difficult as the population suffers starvation. Netanyahu appeared undeterred and believes he has the backing of the US for his plan, but he says that ultimately control of Gaza will be passed to Arab nations.
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel.
This week saw the government focused on immigration amid concerns that more far-right protests may spark public disorder just over a year on from the Southport riots. Police chiefs are concerned that the prison system is once again close to capacity, and an independent report on Britain's prisons found that the whole criminal justice system was within days of collapse on multiple occasions under Rishi Sunak's Tory government. The report, carried out by former prison watchdog Dame Anne Owens, says that between the summer of 2023 and the summer of 2024, there was an ongoing crisis because of overcrowding. However, Sunak was reluctant to begin early releases with an election looming. Things have marginally improved after the Labour government began an early release programme, but Dame Owens says the issues were deep-seated.
I was surprised by talking to people at every level in the system at how close they felt they had come to the system just not being able to manage. And these are not people who are unused to dealing with challenges and risks, but they felt that they had been living through what someone described to me as a perma-crisis.
Wednesday saw a report from the think tank that the National Institute of Social and Economic Research suggests that because of slow growth and tariff wars, the government now has a 40 billion hole in the public finances. They're suggesting the Chancellor is facing what they're calling a trilemma, which involves the fiscal rules, spending commitments and the promise not to raise taxes. Professor Stephen Millard is the Deputy Director of the Institute, and he says it's time to face facts.
Certainly there's a sense that they hadn't really thought through what they needed to do in terms of spending and how much that would cost in terms of higher tax. I think it is inevitable that Labour will have to raise one of the big taxes, and that will affect working people.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer was in Milton Keynes for a visit to a music library, and he was careful not to explicitly rule out tax rises while also remaining positive about the economy's prospects.
Some of the figures that have been put out are not figures that I recognise, but what's really important is that I'm very clear about our focus, which will be on living standards and making sure that people feel better off.
Friday was supposed to mark the deadline for Russia to make progress on peace talks with Ukraine as Donald Trump's 10 to 12 day timeline ran out. Ukraine began the week hoping that the US would impose new sanctions soon, and Ukrainian President Zelensky was talking up the latest tightening of restrictions on Russian oil on Sunday.
Sanctions have been imposed on the captains of Russia's shadow fleet, and we will synchronise sanctions with partners to ensure the pressure is effective across most jurisdictions.
The war in Ukraine was certainly back on Donald Trump's radar, and he was busy posting threats for India on Truth Social about their purchase of Russian oil. There hasn't been much clarity about what Trump is intending to do about Russia, but his envoy Steve Witkoff was dispatched to Moscow for another meeting with Russian President Putin, even if there wasn't much optimism in Kyiv that it will have any impact. Trump himself does seem to be focused on stopping the war, however, as he spoke to the press on Monday.
Yeah, get a deal where people stop getting killed. A tremendous number of Russian soldiers are being killed. And likewise, Ukraine, a lower number, but still thousands and thousands of people. So it's a lot of people being killed in that ridiculous war.
Wednesday saw Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff in Moscow for another 3-hour meeting with Russian President Putin. President Trump declared that there had been great progress and hinted that a meeting between himself and Putin, and maybe even Zelensky, was a possibility in the near future. The Ukrainian leader got a Trump phone call along with European allies, and there was a suggestion that a ceasefire might finally be on the horizon. However, former British ambassador to Ukraine, Lee Turner, was sounding a note of caution about how Putin handles the US president and his envoy.
Witkoff isn't stupid, so he regards himself as being a very successful negotiator, just as President Trump does. But when he has been to see Putin, he comes back spouting verbatim Russian arguments.
There was more mixed messages over Russia's war in Ukraine on Thursday as the Kremlin appeared to derail American plans for a set-piece summit with Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky. The Russian leader is happy to go ahead with a summit with the US president, but Putin says that we are still far from creating conditions for a meeting with all three leaders. Sergei Markov is a former advisor to the Russian president, and he was sounding more positive in that Putin would only agree to a meeting if a deal is in the offing.
If Putin suggested this, it means that it's already included some of the condition of some of the deal. It's difficult to imagine what kind of the deal. It's clear that about the peace on the Ukrainian war.
Still to come on the Standout 7 in association with Metro, the government cracked down on cosmetic cowboys, and we pay tribute to the UK's favourite shock jock.
Right after this.
Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of the Smart 7 is brought to you by Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's. Imagine a world where your favourite things cost less. It's pretty amazing, right? It's like the universe is aligned just for you. Well, that's the magic of Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's, and it's pretty simple. You can unlock up to 10 personalised discounts every Friday on things you love in the Nectar app. And the best part is that while Nectar Prices are for everyone, Your Nectar Prices are just for you. It couldn't be simpler. Each week you'll get up to 10 personalised offers. They're your Nectar Prices. So every Friday, just check your Nectar app and unlock Your Nectar Prices to save more now. Enjoy your own personalised discounts on things you love with Your Nectar Prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18+, Nectar app required. Unlock up to 10 Your Nectar Prices weekly, available in supermarkets, online and in locals with Smart Shop. T&Cs apply.
Welcome back.
The government moved to crack down on cosmetic cowboys on Thursday. Health Secretary Wes Streeting will introduce new legislation next year to try and better regulate the cosmetic and aesthetic treatment industry in the UK. Currently, there's an almost total lack of regulation around who can administer potentially hazardous treatments like Botox or dermatological fillers. More dangerous procedures like the Brazilian butt lift, which can lead to sepsis or blood clots, may be banned entirely. Health Minister Karen Smith said it's these procedures that pose a risk to public health.
We will work quickly on this, and we're absolutely determined to act. And the message from this is also to some of those cowboys out there that are doing this and unregulated, is that we will not accept that. That's not acceptable.
Nora Nugent is president of the British Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, and she said the government needs to move quickly.
So there is a reason why some practitioners are offering very, very cheap treatments. But really, that's not a reason not to bring in this regulation. It's way overdue, and we are far behind most other countries.
It's been another week of chaos in the US with President Trump at the centre of it all. Last weekend, his administration's use of the National Guard and the Marines for ICE enforcement in Los Angeles suffered a setback after the Ninth Circuit Court upheld a restraining order that bans federal agents from making warrantless arrests. LA Mayor Karen Bass says it's a significant moment.
The raids that were happening in Los Angeles, the random pulling and snatching people off the street, the court has said can no longer happen. They recognize that this was unconstitutional, that it violated the rule of law, and it has to stop.
On Tuesday, a congressional committee began an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein by subpoenaing a number of high-profile Democrats, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. The new investigation comes as Donald Trump refuses to release the Epstein files, and negotiations continue with convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. The US president also took a stroll along the roof of the White House above the press room for no apparent reason, made a call to Ukrainian President Zelensky, and called into NBC to threaten the European Union with more tariffs.
We'll be putting a initially small tariff on pharmaceuticals, but in 1 year, 1.5 years maximum, it's going to go to 150%, and then it's going to go to 250%, because we want pharmaceuticals made in our country.
6 months into Donald Trump's presidency, it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. His approval ratings are at a historic low, and his policies on immigration and tariffs also appear to be hugely unpopular. Add in the ongoing scandal over Jeffrey Epstein and erratic behaviour, including that visit to the White House roof on Tuesday, and rambling rants about windmills, and it's no surprise the press were keen to ask him about his successor. Much to the disappointment of John Jr., presumably, he plumped for the existing vice president, but on the plus side, he didn't threaten a third term.
Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with JD in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Meanwhile, Thursday also saw a wave of new Trump tariffs hit countries around the world, including Switzerland, who were hit with a 39% tariff, which they described as a horror situation. Brazil has been hit with 50% tariffs, apparently as punishment for what Donald Trump considers unfair treatment of former President Bolsonaro, something that has outraged current President Lula, who says it's unacceptable authoritarian behaviour.
We believe that a country with 201 years of being civilized and diplomatic will not throw that away because of the intemperate attitude of one president.
The broadcaster James Well MBE passed away on Tuesday at 74 years of age. He'd been ill for some time with kidney cancer, but had continued to broadcast and spoke openly about his illness and the battle he was going through. He first rose to fame as a shock jock in 1974 on Metro Radio, with a local newspaper asking if he was the rudest man on radio, something that he leaned into. He was both sacked by TalkSport and censored by Ofcom over the years, but found a new home on Talk Radio, where he broadcast an evening show. He also appeared on Celebrity Big Brother and set up a cancer charity, which saw him awarded an MBE. He kept broadcasting right to the end, recording a podcast with his wife just last week in the hospice, which featured him struggling to say goodbye to his beloved audience. Rest in peace, James.
Thank you for being a listener. I hope it helps in some way. And who knows what's next? So I can only say au revoir.
Yes, that's very good. Au revoir, not goodbye.
Bye-bye, guys.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Hey, it's Maya and Sim from the Girls That Invest podcast. If you are an IT or security pro, you know managing devices, identities, and applications can feel overwhelming and honestly risky. That's where Trellica by 1Password comes in. It helps conquer SaaS sprawl and shadow IT by discovering every app your team uses, managed or not. With pre-built app profiles, you can assess risk, manage access, and even optimize your software spend. Plus, it simplifies onboarding, offboarding, and compliance, all while cutting costs by eliminating unused licenses. Take the first step to better security for your team. Learn more at onepassword.com/special offer.